You are good. All right, I'm gonna open up the meeting up. Welcome everyone on February 10th to our San Rafael City School Board. Bienvenidos a la reunión de hoy, que es el 10 de febrero. Y Penny, si necesitan Ok, perfecto. Si necesitan traslación, por favor díganos y podemos darles la información. All right, so I wanted to say that we are going to move the agenda. Our superintendent, are you going to share?
Right.
We will approve the agenda, correct?
But there was no reportable
Oh,
section action.
Sorry, no reportable during closed session.
And now we can.
No. Oh, actually, let's do the flag salute. Trustee Rodas, please.
Please place your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Trustee Rodas. Okay. And now we'll talk about the
Yes,
agenda.
so in the interest of time, staff has gotten together and you're presenting items that are of a time-sensitive nature. So for example, I'm going to talk about the items that we are going to remove for a future board meeting. Our update of Sun Valley School will be removed and moved on. Student services resolution will still stand. The public comment, of course, and then consent agenda. We are going to have all items on consent except for item number 17. This will be coming back at the March 10th board meeting under discussion action. Staff reports, because we have to make the February 28th timeline, staff will be giving a mid-year update of our LCAPs for both school districts and the budget overview of parents. Under discussion action, we are still going to present the update on California dyslexia screener. We will table items 2 and 3 and 4, our first read of board policies for our March 10th meeting. And then we will discuss and act and board will act on items number 5 and 6, 7, and then 8.
Okay,
So we just need a motion.
yes, with that, do I have a,
amended agenda?
Motion to approve the new agenda. Second.
all right, that passes. Trustee Kerner, Trustee Rodas, second, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right, we have an agenda. And we do not have an oath to office.
No.
We will be having a special election. Okay, and announcements. So, our union partners, labor union partners, would you like to go first?
I would, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
great.
Thank you. I'd originally planned to drive home in between the special session and the regular session, and I need to get home to my kids. So I
Okay,
really
good.
appreciate you letting me jump the line. So thank you. I recognize that was a very tough meeting we just had, and I know all 4 of you took a tough vote that you took very seriously, so I appreciate that. I look forward to hearing the board's suggestions as to what cuts we can make to free up the resources to fund the special election. That will be necessary. Aside from that, I just want to take the opportunity to thank the district's negotiating team led by Darlene Avalos. We've had an incredibly productive session so far this year. We had a productive session last year. The district comes to the meetings, they are organized, they are prepared. It keeps things moving very smoothly. They're very candid about the process. So all that's gone very professionally and been very smooth this year and led to an extremely productive year so far. We got 4 TAs and an MOU knocked out in our first 3 sessions, which is phenomenal. I think that both parties, both the district and the union, have been willing to compromise. Willing to meet in the middle, being very clear about not just what their position is, but why that's their position so that the other party can adapt and we can find compromise and find common ground. So I just want to say thank you to Ms. Avalos and the rest of the district's team for how smoothly things have gone this year. We look forward to that continuing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
We do have Brianna with SRTA on Zoom, so I'll bring her over, and I believe CSEA as well, so
Okay.
Thank you.
I will move them over. It looks like Brianna is on if you want her to go. Go for it, Brianna.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Diaz-Geisels. I am still home with the sickness that's got me about, I think I'm back up to 80% right now. I thought I would do this report while Molly's over there. Again, for those of you that might not know me, I am Brianna Padilla, Venetia Valley Instructional Coach and SRTA President, representing our early intervention through 8th grade educators. And this evening, in addition to our continued recommendation for Dr. Jason Lau for Area 2 trustee, as we move to a special election, SRTA would like to appreciate tonight's upcoming board resolution for Women's History Month that we will see happening in March nationally. The majority of educators of SRTA and worldwide are women, as you may know, and women historically and currently play a critical role in advocating for marginalized communities, including girls' education, special education, and culturally responsive teaching. Last month's Martin Luther King Jr. Day was lobbied for by his wife, Coretta Scott King, who also directed the establishment of the Educational King Center that we've all known since 1968, even if we weren't alive then. All of this will come sort of to a close here with some SRTA connections to all of this. So this month, you all know, is Black History Month, and that also honors and recognizes the many contributions of Black women, both past and present, and their contributions, among many contributions, that have advocated for equality and equity in education. And these contributions of women have led to reforms that promote inclusivity and equitable opportunities for all students. This is also true of SRTA's values. While Women's History Month is a time to highlight achievements, ongoing efforts in San Rafael City schools could include recognizing women's contributions in educational communities year-round, which I saw in the resolution, supporting policies and agreements that promote gender equity in education, and acknowledging women's dedication and influence on student learning. Additionally, according to Education Week in 2023, not too long ago, female teachers make roughly $2,200 less than their male counterparts. When you're including school-based income of base salary, extra duty pay, and summer school jobs, all of those combined. And statistically, female educators often face disparities within pay equity and work-life balance as well. SRTA members have particularly felt the imbalance of workload and pay and the perceived devaluing of female labor. So supporting women educators strengthens the entire education system by investing in their growth and their well-being, and that allows us to create better learning experience for all of our students and a more equitable future in education, especially in San Rafael City schools directly. So while the female voice is the majority of SRTA, we do not forget our male and gender non-conforming colleagues. And as our bargaining team continues to represent our entire membership in negotiations later this month, we ask that the board continue to consider the constant juggling and toppling plates of our early intervention through 8th grade educators who undoubtedly show up for our students and families beyond the 187 work days, beyond the 180 school days, beyond the equivalent of an 8-hour day, beyond the 40 hours of non-instructional duties a year, beyond the contractual instructional minutes in order to do what is best for our students. And as we persevere in bringing our students' learning levels up beyond the pre-COVID data sets, so that we are actually reflecting the learning that we see happening in our school in those data sets. So to close, we would like to reiterate that our membership is made up of hardworking, committed, and professional educators who want the best for our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have Karen Moncayo with CSEA. Karen, you can unmute yourself and start your video and begin.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Geisels. I am Karen Moncayo. I am the Elementary Site Representative Coordinator for CSEA and HR Specialist that works with Darlene. Our proposal has been approved working with the district. We know there's a lot to be done and we're looking forward to working with you. And hopeful that we'll come to a mutual tentative agreement. Can you hear me all?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Well, that's all I wanted to say. I hope you have a wonderful evening and carry on.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you.
All right, so updates from the trustees.
I guess I'll go first. That's the way. I'm very excited to share that I joined my first committee meeting at the Santa Fe Town Hall, City Hall rather. We spoke about many different topics, ranging from bike safety, immigration, and housing developments. And I'm very excited to share that the city of Santa Fe will be growing, and I think it will be a great thing for our school district in terms of capacity and in terms of the wonderful work that our capital facilities team has been doing to host these new students. In terms of immigration, I know that our community has been very affected. There is a lot of fear out there. I know personally in my home life, we have good family friends that are scared to go to work. So I want to reiterate the resolution we passed last board meeting and continue to and uplift that our district remains committed to our vulnerable families. And we will continue to see that this resolution is put into place and see that our staff helps these families. I look forward to meeting with school leadership, specifically with Principal Dominguez regarding his last presentation on academic rigor in Santa Fe High School. I do believe our institution should be rigorous in academics and do believe that there is great benefit to our students once they graduate from such a rigorous school. I am happy to announce that I was with Kara Connors, a local leader here in the county for Health and Human Services. And I was involved with the mental health campaign. And am very glad to say that our county and also our school district takes mental health into account and would like to uplift that. In terms of trustee updates, I recognize that this special election will come with some pros, with some cons, but I do believe that the discretion of the public is essential to break the tie between our board, and do believe that the public will ultimately make the best choice in terms of electing and voting in majority to support either applicant. I do want to shine light on our board. I do want to recognize that that was a hard decision, but I do also want to recognize them and uplift them for that. So in terms of trustee updates, that's all I have.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Trustee Daniela Marsh. Yeah. What's wonderful is that we get to work together as either members or alternates. And so I was at that same meeting, the city county schools meeting with Trustee Rodas. And I think that's so important about supporting each other in the sharing of knowledge and supporting each other in teamwork. To add on, though, that's a great space where the County of Marin representatives, the City of San Rafael representatives, Miller Creek School District representatives, and San Rafael City School representatives. And as Trustee Rodas expressed, we touched upon those important topics to move with intentionality and information sharing in real time. I do want to reinforce and uplift that a big central concern of all of those spaces was about how can we best train in real time and share in real time accurate information regarding immigrant, like everything that's going on with the executive orders, everything about supporting our children and families. And I think it's really important for the public to know, including our team here at SRCS, is that there's a commitment from all of those jurisdictions together in partnership, as well as some other community partners like Canal Alliance, Legal Aid of Marin, folks that are very aligned with us, and Director Gonzalez's work with community school partnerships. It's coming February 26th is the Joint Legislative Action Committee Advocacy Day. This is not open just to JLAC members, but it's open to all trustees. I want to encourage some newer trustees or some veteran trustees, or I know, student trustees, I'll reach out to them. This is an opportunity for us to advocate and bring forth our issues, not only San Rafael City Schools, but advocate and get a better understanding of how the budget works at a larger level. It's not a field trip. It's an opportunity to connect with our legislators in a different way, and in a day of education as well. I am happy to report that former student trustee, Trustee Penelope Carroll, took forth my invitation, even though she transitioned off. She's proud to represent our student trustees. So if we can get some more representation, that would be really cool. But just wanted to note on that. And had my one-on-one with superintendent. And the last bit is we are lucky to have Marin County School Board Association as an organization. Not all counties have such a thing to unify all of our school districts. And I'm happy to share that there will be an event this coming spring, and it's an open invitation to all of our school districts, student trustees, as well as our trustees and staff. It's going to have Congressman Jared Huffman speaking of the same timely topic that we have been reinforcing about the importance of aligning and training and immigration and what we can do on a local level. And so that's going to be a very special meeting coming this spring, invitations to come, but I felt it was very important to share that from Marin County School Board Association. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hammermarch. Trustee Kerner.
Yeah, so over the last couple weeks, I had a chance to visit a different school instead of Terra Linda. So I still have a few classes to go visit in Terra Linda that I want to make up that I haven't been able to make it to, but I made it to Bahia Vista. Got to visit school and see some of the classrooms. I did not get to sit in on classes longer like I have on my previous visits. So I will go back and do that at some point. So I don't know the speed at which I do this, but I will try to get to the other schools as well. It was actually very, very refreshing or exciting to go to that school as well. You know, it's so different from high school, obviously. And so a couple of things that I saw that I just want to mention that seemed to be going very well. I really enjoyed meeting the teachers who invited me there. They were super energetic and thankful. So I appreciate that opportunity. And inside the classrooms too, I got to see, the kids were active coming out for recess. They needed to settle back into the class. I saw the teachers like doing exercise with the kids as they were teaching them. So something I really kind of learned from that visit was how they're using physical activity to help guide some of the behavior. They also have, and I forget the name of it. There's a soccer program. They've
American Scores.
American Scores. So that seems to have been very positive from my conversation as well, in terms of they come off of participating in this, both the boys and the girls, they come back in, and there are some of the kind of energy behavior problems are alleviated from that. So it's great to see that happening. Makes me think more and more about how sports tie into all of our education. I will speak firsthand from watching my kids at Terra Linda once getting involved in sport, and kind of the rigor of the training also went to lead on to more dedication in academics. So again, I bring that up just as for us to think forward, measuring these programs, how they're working, may be inexpensive ways to get better results, or at least to consider as we're doing everything else. That's my update for now. So I'll pass it on to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I do want to say that I'm sure you did not see Mr. Joe Dominguez's presentation last week. It was very enlightening, and I'm following up with him to attend San Rafael High School Also, I did want to have an honest conversation that, yes, we did have a board member appointment this evening, and that meeting went on for, I want to say 2.5 hours maybe. And it is great to be transparent, and it is great to maybe not agree, but agree to disagree, and also welcome in our public to see we have 2 great candidates. And I just want to thank the board here for having those great conversations and really pushing each other. I also attended a youth and arts event, and that's pretty much what I have been doing. I've had some work travel, so I will pass it to Superintendent Geisels.
Okay, so thank you so much. I know it was a tough special board meeting, and I appreciate your candor and your honesty and your transparency, and we will move on from this. I participated in the WASC visit for Tierra Linda High School, the government portion. Also, I visited San Rafael High and had a great visit, walked through classrooms with Mr. Dominguez, and see a lot of live hands-on teaching, which I really appreciated. Also participated in the TKK Info Night at Bahia Vista last week. And next week, which is our February midwinter break, we call it snow break in my other first district. I have my visit to Bahia Vista on the 26th of February. And during that time, I will be meeting with parents in the morning and student leaders during the day and staff in the afternoon to get their ideas, input, and feedback on qualities for their next principal at Bahia Vista. We will make sure that the interview panels receive all that information. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that's it for me. So thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, that moves us to resolutions. So we have a student services approval of resolution 2425-42 in recognition of Women's History Month, March 2025.
Yes, hello, good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Geisels. This evening, I'm Susan Akram, Director of Student Services. I am bringing to you our 2425-42 resolution in recognition of Women's History Month in March. You just heard Miss Brianna Padilla really highlight the importance of this month, and she did it so eloquently. I just have a few additional things to add to that. This resolution, as you know, is in support of the recognition of Women's History Month, acknowledging the historic contributions of women in the United States and the world. This year's theme is moving forward together, women educating and inspiring generations. Celebrating women who've dedicated their lives to education, mentorship, and leadership. Women have been leaders in reform in education, in the education system to provide equitable outcomes for children from all backgrounds. However, women were not allowed to gain a higher education in the United States until the late 1800s. And it wasn't until 1920, after many years of the women's suffrage movement, that the 19th Amendment granted women the legal right to vote. Achieving these milestones required a lengthy and difficult struggle. Victory took decades of agitation and protest. These resolutions that we bring to you are a powerful tool to highlight our district's values, and they illuminate longstanding inequities and honor the invaluable contributions of marginalized communities in our society. This resolution encourages all schools to commemorate women's contributions in March and throughout the year. So our staff, I am requesting to our board to approve this resolution in support of Women's History Month in March.
Any comments?
No comments.
I have one brief comment and also a dovetail, very similarly with our Black History Month resolution. I want to thank the community and the schools and the staff who have reached out proactively for invitations and sharing what local events are happening on your school campus and the community. And I want to invite the same as well for those schools who are or community member adjacent for Women's History Month. Thank you for bringing forth this resolution. Just my fun fact is that Women's History Month or the movement really started here in the North Bay with Santa Rosa, Sonoma County Women's Commission, really shepherding the creation of International Women's Day, and which transformed into International Women's Month and History Month. And so that's a really important note because that's part of our history too. And then we can be shepherds of that through these resolutions. So thank you.
Thank you, trustee Deanna Marsh. Trustee Kerner, any comments?
Thank you for sharing and presenting.
Thank you for bringing this forward. Thank you so much.
Yes, they need.
And I need a motion.
Great privilege, motion to approve resolution.
And a privilege to second.
All right, moved by trustee Rhoda, second by trustee Deanna Marsh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes. Thank you so much. Okay, we are going to be skipping the Sun Valley, and so now we do public comments on non-agendaized items. Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items in the room? I'm seeing none. Any on Zoom?
Those on Zoom can use the raise hand feature if they would like to give a public comment. We'll give it a moment. Seeing none.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now we move to approval of the consent agenda, but I think there's things we are pulling.
Minus item number 17, which staff will bring back under discussion and action.
Okay, great. So then we are moving everything over other than 17. Do I have a
Motion to approve.
Yes, thank you. Moved by trustee Kerner, second by trustee Rodas. All those in favor? Aye, that passes. All right, so now we are going to staff reports.
Yes. So this evening, we will be presenting a mid-year update on the 24-25 local control accountability plan and budget overview for parents for both districts. As you know, California school districts are required to present to the board a mid-year update on their LCAP and local control funding formula, which is LCFF, and a budget overview for parents. So thank you, Christina, for bringing up the presentation. So basically, the mid-year update is an opportunity for staff to update the board and the community on the status of our implementation of our LCAP. Our LCAP is basically a plan as to how we will use our funds to provide support and success to our students. And it is a kind of a partner with the strategic plan, which is the what and the why, which, by the way, I have a few comments about that as well, as far as our next steps for that. So here are a key LCAP highlights. As you can see, I'm not going to read them all to you, but it is comprehensive. It's 3 years. It's for every student in both of our districts. And those who obviously need more will get the same. It tells the district story and how it prioritizes equity and student learning. It also calls for very significant, meaningful engagement and educational engagement and data analysis. And then it also unifies our funding streams into one set of goals and actions. And as you can see, the 3 bullet points there on how that is done. It also aligns our school plan. So we have the LCAP, and then we have our school plans. And we annually update this because it is considered a living document. So that is what the highlights are of our plan. Now, the purpose and intent. Now, Mr. Marcucci, I'm going to turn this over to you because you can speak more clearly to the supplemental concentration and the base grants.
Sure.
To do that.
So the LCFF, as you know, provides every district with a base grant. And then there is funding that is provided when you reach certain criteria with your unduplicated pupil count, the homeless and foster youth, low socioeconomic and English language learners. Those concentrations of students drive other funding on top of the base grant, and the LCAP is mainly concerned with how those funds are being used and what's the plan for those funds, those supplemental and concentration dollars.
Thank you, Ms. Marcucci. I just threw that out. These are our LCAP components, and you can see there's many pieces to this. So you look at our overview for parents, our annual update, our summary, engaging our partners, our goals and actions, increased improvement services and required descriptions. And you can see all of the pieces of the LCAP that are essential. And this is for not one, but 2 separate school districts. And Ceci, do you have anything you'd like to add as far as the components are concerned? Anything else that?
No, I mean, you've seen it because a few of you have actually approved the both plans, so it's in many pages. But what this update really is to try and give you a synthesis of the high leverage actions that we're focusing on this year.
And all of these components go to our 4 big goals or 4 big rocks in our strategic plan. And the update that we provide you will also provide us help in updating our strategic plan. As you can see, there are the goals and these are the highlights. So this is, again, the why and the what, and our LCAP is the how in that sense. And then our current LCAP documents are here, and it's linked, and you have access to the public for both our elementary school district and our high school district. That also includes a budget overview for our parents, how we're spending our money. And then last year's 2023 and the annual update, and of course this year's. And then we have provided relevant mid-year data. So each of the components in the LCAP we have brought to you for presentations. As you can see, we've done that, and there's a link to each of those presentations there. And these are ongoing school and district updates and as well as our budget presentation. So we each have a component there that we've been trying to bring specifically from the LCAP and provide you those updates during our board meetings. So finally, our 2024 mid-year update documents provided snapshots of our status and progress for our LCAP. And then as you see, just clicking on one specifically, Christina, if you could do the elementary, there is our elementary update. Again,
Clarification that the updates are in blue for each of the items. So this is a summary of the strategic actions and under each goal area. And we've reflected on the status of each of those in blue following. So we have that for each district.
Just something allowed to remember that some of the actions haven't started yet because it's dependent on where we are in this school year. Many of them are ongoing. Some of them were new this year, but many are continuing actions, knowing that it takes time to affect real change. So we've tweaked a lot of our actions, but in terms of big picture, our goals have remained pretty stable.
And then the next slide shows our overview for parents regarding our elementary school district budget. So Bob, if you want to speak to this slide, that'd be great.
Yeah, just quickly, I mean, you can see the total LCFF funds sort of at budget adoption in June, and then a slight change there at first interim, and there's lots of things that could factor into how that LCFF calculation changes. And then you can see the portion of the total LCFF funds that are supplemental in concentration. It's almost 13 million of the 60. That supplemental and concentration amount, anything that you don't spend in 1 year sort of gets added to that goal in the LCAP for the next year. So that's why we really work hard to make sure that we're using those funds in the best way we can. You can see just as of February, what's been either expended or encumbered out of the grant about halfway through the year. So it makes sense there'd be half of the funds. I think there will be, to Ceci's point, goals and actions within the LCAP that have yet to be encumbered that are in the plan. And there are also things that we will find as we're combing through our budget that, oh, you know what, that's supposed to be coded to supplemental and concentration. Let's make sure that we get that in there. There's always little pieces like that we might find. So it's a work in progress, both for both districts. But that's the elementary district, kind of where we're at right now. And then the high school district, 38 million, really close actually from budget adoption to the mid-year first interim. And then supplemental and concentration, about 6 million of the 38. And looks like we're moving a little slower in terms of what's been expended and encumbered. So that's something that I'll be working with our high school folks on.
So our next steps, and any member of cabinet can chime in too if they have some points they'd like to add. So we will continue to review our progress and data. We are going to get community engagement and feedback. We have staff and parent survey that we plan to send out this coming spring. We will also incorporate our learnings and feedbacks in our 2025 LCAPs with the differentiated assistance work that we're doing, and also the community work, the AI task force, the culture, equity, and belonging. And also, all of this will also have us backwards planning, go back and look at our 4 major goals and actions in our strategic plan. And this will help us revise where we are with the strategic plan and come back and bring an updated version of that as well. And then once we do that, we will bring the LCAP drafts back to the board for review. And then we'll get your input and then come back again in June and get your review and final approval. Stephanie, Ceci, anyone want to add anything into this that I missed? Christina?
I would just say, like we like to say in San Rafael, all of what we're doing throughout the year is part of our LCAP. So we don't have siloed LCAP work, just as all the presentations we are doing impact what we are learning and what we are finding about what's working well and what's not working well. Our conversations with our labor partners throughout meet and confers, that's always informing what is in our strategic plan and our local control and accountability plan. So while we have this opportunity now to take a mid-year check-in to see how we're doing, it's the entire school year that really sets us up for refining our LCAPs and bringing you those updated drafts this spring.
And can I just ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
When we're talking about the community engagement feedback or the parent survey, is that what was that called?
So as you may recall, the board did decide to
Yes.
do Youth Truth every other year.
Every other year.
Yeah, so
Okay,
this is
thank
an
you.
off year, so it
Okay.
actually gives us an opportunity to develop our own survey
That's what I was thinking.
with our own types of questions and then what we feel is perhaps something that we want to kind of dial into for what we're hearing from our staff and our families and teachers. So we can customize that, and that's exactly what we're doing, to get some really tailored feedback rather than the larger picture of the culture and communities of our school.
Okay, that was what I was remembering. It was like the off year and we're doing something
But we
different.
will still survey, don't
Yeah.
worry, but it won't be as long.
Yeah.
Very long.
Okay, sorry. Any questions from our board?
No additional questions.
My only other question I had is, I remember, hold on. Currently, he used to be the Coleman principal and now he's doing the after school.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, how is that? It wasn't like an after school.
Elop?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so that is one of the bullet points in there, I believe it's under student success.
Yes.
But we continue to expand, we'll be waiting from the state to hear, there's different tiers of funding. Whether we met the higher tier of funding, which would allow more expansion, but we have currently enrolled about 1,500 kids. Grades TK through 8, primarily focusing on TK through 6 in our after school programs.
Support.
I think in February, we have 400-ish.
I just saw that in the write-up, yeah.
Yeah, and so summer, well, I wrote these numbers today and I can't remember, 1,200-ish
Okay,
for last summer. And so every year we kind of work to dial that to meet the right number. So enrollment does not equal ADA, the number of kids who show up.
right.
So we work to try to get those as close as we can.
Okay, great. I was wondering how that was going. Okay.
And that is another opportunity for feedback that I know the ELOT program is surveying their families, so that feedback will impact their program as well as impact our LCAP. So
Okay.
so there's all these small things where we're getting input from our stakeholders to inform our plan.
Great, thank you for that. Sure, that's what was standing out to me. Any other question?
No question.
Questions?
And then we're on to discussion and
Oh.
action.
Great, now we're on to discussion and action.
And we are going to be presenting to you an update on California Dyslexia Springer.
Oh, yes,
There's an action the board has to take.
okay.
I had a clicker at some, there.
Ask if you were to trust me with it tonight. Okay, so we have some actions we need to take with our California Dyslexia Screener. I also want to just provide you a little bit of information. This was relatively fast-moving legislation. And then at the end of December, we finally got things we could action on, and so that's where we are tonight. Am I doing this or are you? I'll help you.
I think you're good.
Okay. So I want to first start with what dyslexia is. I am not going to read you the definition from the California Dyslexia Guidelines on page 3. It is a very long document, but I think the couple of things just for us to come to is the thing that people often think about when you think about dyslexia is someone who flips their letters, right? That's like kind of the old thought around what is dyslexia. Dyslexia is a lot more than that, and really isn't that. What it really is we know it's neurobiological, and we know it impacts a student's ability to decode, right? To read fluently, and therefore that impacts their ability to spell oftentimes. And if you struggle to decode and to spell in the most basic sense, later on, you will likely struggle with comprehension as well. So that's kind of the secondary effect. So it has a really big impact on our youngest learners potentially as they're learning to read. And so some of the things that we might see in our students is that we see that their oral language and reading are much more advanced, their oral language is much more advanced than their actual reading ability. They really struggle with segmenting sounds, so bat, at, or putting sounds together, k, at, cat, right? They might struggle with both of those. And those are things we're working on as young as TK. Remembering sight words. So these sometimes are kiddos who have read the word the 100 times in the past 2 days, and they still try to sound out the word the, and we know we can't sound that out, right? They spell words the way that they sound, which is what we want from our youngest writers, but as they get older, they keep doing that, right? They can't quite link the letters with the sounds in the way most of our learners can. And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes we might see something else, right? They might also have ADHD or a language impairment. And so just to put this in perspective, I think this for me was really useful to be thinking about. So how common is dyslexia? About 13 to 14% of the students we serve in our schools will be identified as qualifying for special education services. So they'll have an IEP of some sort, right? Of those 13 to 14%, about half of them have a learning disability. 85% of the kids who have a learning disability is in reading specifically. And so that's the link potentially to dyslexia. And then as a whole, 15 to 20% of the population might have symptoms of dyslexia. Symptoms of dyslexia do not equal having a learning disability, right? But there's things that we can intervene on earlier. So because of all the things we talked about, really, and the impact that dyslexia or symptoms of dyslexia may have on our youngest readers, California, I think we're about the 40th state to adopt a screener for dyslexia. And this was written into Ed Code about 1.5 years ago, I believe. And there are some really specific pieces of this legislation. And so I'm pulling out the biggest ones. The first one is by June, the board needs to adopt a dyslexia screener. We'll talk a little bit about where that is from the state. And then starting next school year, we'll have 90 days every school year, the first 90 calendar days. We need to screen every student in grade 2 using this dyslexia screener. After we do the screening, we have 45 days to notify parents of the results. And then we also need to offer services and supports to students identified as at risk for these reading difficulties. And those can look a variety of ways. A lot of this will probably sound familiar to you. Things like progress monitoring, early intervention, structured literacy, right? A lot of the things we already have in place in our schools. But that is what the legislation requires of us, and that starts that timeline starts ticking August 20th of next school year. Okay, so context. So things that we're already doing, we're doing this chunk already in our district, right? So thinking about what are all the things that we're doing for all of our readers. We are using evidence-based literacy instruction. So we've talked about foundations and awareness, Haggerty, progress monitoring. We are regularly monitoring students where they are in their early reading, their foundational skills, as well as their reading, both fluency, comprehension, decoding. And then we have intervention, both in the classroom. We talked about multi-tiered systems of support. There's the in-classroom small group reading instruction that can happen, as well as intervention support from an intervention teacher. So those are all of the things that are already happening. in our schools. So this multi-tiered systems of support and the regular assessment and progress monitoring, we continue to refine, and we'll continue to learn kind of how we can get better and better at this, but those pieces are in place in our district. And I pulled this back up because this is from our multi-tiered systems of support, the things we're already doing in reading. And so you can see the ways the phonics and the word work, we're supporting this reading instruction in tiers 1, tiers 2, and tiers 3 already. So that brings us to our screeners. So I believe it was December 17th or 18th, the state approved 4 screeners that could be used for dyslexia. And so we have reviewed those screeners since then, and then we brought this information to our Elementary Curriculum Advisory Committee with a recommendation that we adopt multitudes. So of the 4 screeners, one of them was only approved for grades 1 and 2, and only in English. So we ruled that one out because then we would be using a different screener for kinder and for first and second, and that doesn't seem supportive of us as a school system. Of the 3 remaining, 2 were screeners that we would be charged to use. And the third one was an organization we've already talked with actually a few times over the past 2 years, Multitudes, which is out of UCSF, the Center for Dyslexia, and it is free of charge to all districts in California if they adopt it as a screener. It's also been approved in grades K2, English and Spanish. And I think for us, one of the most important things that we talked about is they have done a lot of research in California, very specifically mirroring the populations that exist in California. And so knowing that we have such a large language learner population here in San Rafael, we wanted to make sure that any screener we used had been researched for validity essentially with the populations that we have here in San Rafael. Because what we don't want is a screener result that reflects the student's language rather than their reading ability, right? Because then we're measuring the wrong thing and getting results that aren't actually going to help us as much with instruction, which is how we'd like to. So at the end of January, ECAC recommended multitudes for board approval, and so that is what I am bringing to you tonight. And I want to talk a little bit about the conversation we've had about how we would implement this. So we have about 1,200 students in grades K2. That's a lot of kids to do a screener with, in addition to what we're already doing to support our students. And so what we'd like to do, Multitudes, they think they will be able to make available to anyone who's interested a trial this spring where we can do this with some of our students and understand what the process is like, understand the score reports that are produced, see at the time kind of work through some of the kinks. And so that's something that we have interest in doing in San Rafael so that we can be prepared to do this on a much larger scale next year. The other thing we've talked about, there is a small allocation that is on a per pupil basis. I believe it's like $20 or $21 per child. And so we could use that money to hire assessors to do the one-on-one assessment with our students, very, very much like what we do with LPAC. And that would cover about the cost of that. The initial assessment is about 10 to 15 minutes. And then if more screening is warranted, there's another assessment that's about 20 minutes that happens after this. So it's not labor intensive, but it is not negligible in the labor that we're gonna need to provide in order to do this for 1,200 students. And so that's really why we wanna trial this. And then, like I said earlier, we have 90 calendar days from the beginning of the school year. For results to be accurate, we don't wanna start screening our learners in the first couple weeks of school. We won't get great data. And this screener will provide really valuable information for us. And so this is our current implementation plan. If we are able to trial it, we will definitely work through some of the kinks and make adjustments this spring to what we think we would do this fall. Overall, I think this dyslexia screener is gonna really help us pinpoint some of the challenges our students might have with reading. And there's a lot of work we need to do around professional development. And so thinking about that, and this is both with parents and educators. While a student may show that they have some dyslexic tendencies or they're showing at risk from the screener, that does not equal a diagnosis, nor does that equal special education, right? What it tells us is in these certain areas, in phonological awareness, for example, we are seeing this as an area of need for this student. And so then we have the opportunity as educators to intervene and provide some additional support there, right? It can inform instruction. I think those nuances, I imagine as a parent, if I got a letter from my student that said, Carter is at risk for dyslexia, like my first question would be, does he have dyslexia and what special education services does he need, right? That's the kind of work we're really gonna have to do in order to make sure that we can use these screeners to support our youngest readers and make sure that we are not kind of sending panic through, particularly our parents, I think, when these results go out. We are not the only district, we are one of every district in California that is gonna be having this conversation. And there's some really, really great opportunities in here for us, again, to really target instruction more. And we don't want that to get lost in the results that end up in educator or parent hands, right? And so I think that's the professional development we really need to do. And make it really clear that the screening results are information to support teaching. And for some students, it will lead to further assessment, possibly even special education, but not for all. And so we need to help do that work internally and develop that muscle to understand what that could mean for which child and. So our next steps would be to offer to you Multitudes as our approved screener here in San Rafael City Schools. If we approve that tonight, then ideally we could start trialing that possibly as early as March. We could do that both in some of our DLI classrooms as well as some of our SEI or English only classrooms. We would start using the screeners in September. We have until calculated, I think it was like November 15th, it was right before Thanksgiving, to finish all of those assessments. And then any student who comes in after the school year starts, either have 30 or 45 days, I can't recall, in order to do the screener. So there is some ongoing screening that happens as students enroll late. We will need to do some staff and parent education throughout the fall. And then next winter, we'll spend some time really thinking about what we learned and how might we revise this for the following school year as we do the next set of screenings. Questions? That was a lot, sorry.
I have two questions. First one is, it just left me. Sorry, I just got tired. Okay, I'll go. Is there risk of false positives, false negatives on this, and what's?
Yeah, so we asked them that, and there is some, but that is what the research has really worked to validate, right? They've honed down the questions they ask and so forth. The biggest thing that they talked to us about, and this is part of why we want to do the trial, is if a child's home language is other than English, whether you do it in Spanish to get a more accurate picture of that student. And so that's something we're gonna have to look at. But by and large, what they have said is and they've done a lot of research, that it's validated that for students who pop up at risk, that is really what we're seeing.
Okay, and I remember my second question. It was if Multitudes, for whatever reason, isn't the right one, are there plenty of others to try from?
Not plenty.
Not plenty, or is there a backup?
There's 4 total that the state has approved. There's one is only for grades 1st and 2nd, so I would rule that out. The other 2 are ones that you can pay for. So I think what we would do is at the end of this first implementation in the fall, if we were finding that this wasn't meeting our needs or we had really big concerns, we could go back out and look at the other 2 that are pay for. There's the chance the state might approve more, but they, I don't know if they disbanded or they just put on hold. They had a whole task force they brought together to look at the screeners. So we'd also kind of have to see what the state does in the interim.
Okay, well, hopefully it works.
Yes. And I think no matter what, it's gonna provide really good information about where our students are.
In the 13 to 15%, is that a national number?
I believe so,
or was that? Okay.
national number.
Okay. Okay, that's it for my question.
Trustees, any questions?
I have a question in regards to the response into these So let's say the student, it comes out, they are detected to have some sort of dyslexia. What will be the response the district provides? What's in the future, I guess?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the way that these score reports work, I almost included this slide and then I didn't because it was kind of getting in the weeds, but there's depending on the grade level that the student is at, there's different pieces of foundational literacy that they'll assess for. So a student may show at risk, for example, in one of 6 areas that would inform our instruction. And so embedded in multitudes, there's like professional development modules as well as some lessons that we could do, but what it told me, for example, is that my student is really struggling with blending, putting 3 sounds together. As a teacher, I would pull a small group and focus on blending with that student and see what happens, right? So it's very similar to what teachers are doing. It is what teachers are already doing now, but it gives us some more pinpointed data for the student.
Great.
And then if they need more intervention with time, we would provide that too.
Great.
My one question is, you noted about the need to hire assessors for that. What is the estimated cost of that?
It is almost exactly the same as the estimated cost for or the estimated amount we will get. So we're getting about 30,000.
Okay.
When I calculated it, and this was like kind of back of the envelope because we've never done it before, but based on what they projected, I think it'll be between 28 and 35,000. So it's a pretty close price match in terms of the amount that the state should be giving us. We will really understand that better if we're able to trial this spring.
Thank you for that context.
Yeah, I think, oh, sorry, anybody else have?
No, that was.
No.
I think for me, I'm really glad you're thinking about the professional development for the teachers and also the communication for parents, because dyslexia is such a scary word and it means so many things to so many people. And, you know, sometimes there's these myths that more boys have dyslexia than girls, or girls are ahead, or so to me, I'm glad you're thinking about communication ahead of time, sharing it with parents. This is coming. This is everyone. Because I think that can seem overwhelming. And then they also don't want that kind of headline attached to their child, even if it's just a screen. So I think for me, I would really want us as, you know, we're thinking of these littles and they're taking these tests, and I was trying to look at it. Is it a Padlet? And then I'm wondering, like, have they had exposure to that? Like, I just went on and saw and watched kids. So like, I'm already worried about all that, knowing that my one of my children does not test well. So my anxiety just reading this like goes up. So you've done a great job. Thank you for your presentation, but it does give me just a little bit of concern with, you know, they're in 2nd grade. They're getting this Padlet, they're getting screened, and the parents are like, oh my God, does my kid have dyslexia? So I just am thinking about all of that, and then I wouldn't want to hear, you know, from a teacher saying, okay, 7 of my kids tested, but what does that even mean? We don't even know what it means. So that's just where I am on fire a little bit about it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I would say that's like it's not whether or not we can do the assessment.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We know we can do the assessment. We know that our teachers are already using data to.
Right.
It is like when I consider what I think the thing we probably need to give the most consideration to, it is absolutely the communication home for
Yes.
families and
And
making
teachers,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dyslexia is complex. I have done a fair amount of research and I still could not go give a presentation or a PD on what dyslexia is and all the ins and outs of it, nor should I. I'm not
Right.
qualified to.
Yeah.
And so we will need to be tracking on, the state is supposed to create communication for all of this. We know that state communication does not always equal something that our families understand. And so ideally, we're figuring out what the bridge for that is.
Right.
And it's going to be, I think it will be a bumpy road sometimes.
Yes.
Again, we are in good company. And I think part of the fall for this will be a little bit rocky.
Yeah.
As we figure out how to have those conversations with families in a way that's meaningful for them. And that ultimately we're doing a better job with data, this data helping us instruct the child. But that parent
Right.
component's big,
Yeah.
really big.
And just, I think about our special education team, I think about our
Mhm.
community schools, and just like, how are we all thinking collectively of this
Yeah.
messaging? So no, thank you.
So
We have to,
we need an action.
we need an action. I
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. All right. Mo second, moved by trustee Kerner, second by trustee Daniela Marsh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Huh?
All those in
Oh,
favor?
all of those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Vice. Thank you, Vice. Okay. All right.
We're jumping to number
Five,
five, presentation from Sunshine Articles from San Rafael City Elementary and Secondary.
Thank you. So article, item 15.5 is the district's sunshine articles from both elementary and secondary school districts for negotiations with our California School Employees Association, CSEA classified, for this school year 24-25. These items are initial proposal for negotiations from the district. And the contract this year is a successor contract, so the entire contract is open, which allows us to both parties agree, open up additional articles than those that are listed here. So for the district currently, we have 4 articles, and we are seeking approval of the sunshine articles from San Rafael Elementary and Secondary for negotiating interest with CSEA. Any questions?
No questions.
This is action.
Yes, we need an action.
Motion to approve.
Second. Moved by trustee Kerner, second by Daniela Marsh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes. Okay. All right, number 6, human resources. Again.
So this is the sunshine articles from CSEA to the district for this school year. They have 8 articles that they will be proposing. And we are recommending an approval for both ESD and HSD from CSEA.
Okay, any questions, trustees?
Nope.
Nope.
No questions, motion to approve.
Second. All right, moved by trustee Rhoda, second by Daniela Marsh. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. All right, human resources for number 7.
So we are requesting approval of resolution 2425-41, placing classified employee on a reemployment list following exhaustion of all leaves of absence. So we have an employee who has exhausted all of available leaves as of March 7th. Should the employee not be able to return to work, he or she will be replaced on a 39-month reemployment list for the position that this person holds. So we are requesting an approval of this resolution.
Any questions, trustees?
Motion to approve.
Second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that was moved by trustee Rhoda, second by trustee Daniela Marsh. All right, my favorite. Thank you so much. And now donations from our business services.
Right, you guys ready for some fun?
Yes.
Okay. We have 2 donations to speak about tonight. One is to Laurel Dell Elementary, and it is for a great cause, Student Joy.
Yeah.
Is the cause. And this is from Erin Wines St. John, and she is providing a donation of $1,500 for Student Joy.
Oh,
Wow.
So that's exciting.
pretty
We'll
cool.
hopefully we'll hear what joy it brought, right?
Focused donation on joy. That's a new one.
Very good. So thank you to Miss St. John or Wine St. John. We really appreciate that. And then the next one is to Davidson Middle School from our Davidson PTO for Makers Class laptops, and that is a donation of $1,869.95.
all right.
So thank you
That
to
sounds
our
like an
Davidson
exact
PTO.
computer price.
Does that include a warranty?
So total donation this evening is $3,369.95.
Do
I
I
feel like
have?
we need to be on the prices right or something.
I make the motion to approve this.
Yes.
Second.
Yep.
Second by, first motion by trustee Kerner, second by trustee Rhodas. All those in favor say
Aye.
Yeah, thank you.
passes. Congratulations. Okay, our next regular meeting will be on March 10th, 2025. And so I adjourn the meeting.